Welcome to the Desert Lady Diaries podcast, a weekly conversation with women who found their home in the Mojave Desert. I'm your host, Dawn Davis, and this is episode number Lucky 7. If you're here for the first time, welcome. And if you're a returning listener, thanks for listening again. You'll find us on the web at desertladydiaries.com, and you can call us with questions, comments, or compliments at area code 760-392-1293. And please remember to speak slowly and clearly. Your question might make it on the podcast. This week, I'm talking to a 24-year desert resident, Cathy Allen. She's an artist, and she talks about Noah Purifoy and her quirky new little project called Sunvale Village. Welcome back to Desert Lady Diaries. Our guest today is Cathy Allen. She is an artist who's very active in her community, serving on the boards of the Palm Springs Art Museum Artist Council, and also is a board member for the 29 Palms Art Guild. With an artistic career that has spanned more than 25 years, Cathy's work has been displayed in galleries and venues in San Diego, Los Angeles, San Bernardino, and Palm Springs. She holds an MFA from the Claremont Graduate University and a BFA degree from Otis Parsons Art Institute, and she is currently a professor at Copper Mountain College in Fine Arts.
I am.
Welcome to the podcast,
Thank
Cathy.
you. It's great to be here.
I usually start out with the question of, how long have you been a permanent resident of the desert?
I moved here in September of 1993. So that would be 24 years.
Wow, that's a lot longer than a lot of the folks that I've had on the podcast so far.
Yeah, I guess I'm the old guard now. Yikes.
What was your, thinking back all those years ago, what was your very first encounter with the desert?
Well, I think I come out camping with fellow graduate students. I'd passed through Joshua Tree many times, came out camping during my stint at Claremont. And I think if you want to talk about how I moved here, I was about to graduate from Claremont, didn't know what to do. I was pretty sure I didn't want to stay in LA. Plus the artwork that I was doing was just not, moving to a little studio apartment, downtown LA, artist loft. I just couldn't have done it with the type of work I was doing. I was doing a lot of outdoor work. I was definitely using junk then, found materials. I was also working with fire. I had a little area in the backyard at Claremont where they allowed me to burn things. I'm a bit of a pyromaniac. So I was consulting with my instructors, about to leave the college, and John Outerbridge, also a mixed media artist, suggested that I meet Noah Purifoy out here in Joshua Tree. And so after I graduated, I took his advice and came out and met Noah, and also met Debbie Brewer, who was the old friend, neighbor, and actually had sold Noah the property that is now the Noah Purifoy Museum.
Interesting, yeah.
So I met both of them, and I mean, just kindred spirits. It would just clicked. I loved what he was doing, of course, was very impressed with the space he was working in and how he was working. We immediately developed a rapport, talking about the work. And he offered me a position of, just an internship or a apprenticeship, I guess would be more appropriate.
Wow. How long had he been in that place? Because he came from LA or Venice, right?
Right.
How long had he been there before you came to work with him?
I think he started in 89.
Oh, okay.
So he'd already been there, 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
And there was only 2.5 acres at that point. There's 10 now.
It's not pretty big. There's a lot of stuff out there.
Yeah, if not more. So it was in its early stages. He was really contending with the elements then. I remember the wind was still kind of knocking his work over, and he was devising ways to deal with that. So, I got a taste of the challenges that an outdoor artist might face here through him. I'm still contending with those things myself, but he was a great one to meet right off the bat.
No doubt. I mean, that I've been out there. A couple of the pieces that are my favorites are the there's like a lunch tray piece with green and yellow lunch trays that's curved.
Those are supposed to be prison trays.
Oh, they're prison trays.
That's what someone has told me.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. Well, that almost lends a whole different meaning to it, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. And then, of course, the use of like the old TVs and computers, and there's a wall, basically, of that stuff. It's just, there's There's a lot of cool stuff out there. So
Very
if anybody
much.
gets a chance to go out there, it's super cool.
Very much. And constantly evolving. I think they add pieces that people have in their private collections, I think bring those out there. And then pieces are transported to galleries. And, the show at LACMA kind of launched his international fame. Too bad he passed away. He deserves that recognition.
Right, absolutely. So, and how great that you got to work with him.
Yes. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
What an experience.
Yeah, and so I worked there for about a year on and off, and then went back and did some other jobs for him later, but we just developed a friendship. So even after that first year, we stayed friends up until the time he died. So
do you feel like there were things that you learned from him that you have incorporated into your work?
Oh yeah, you bet. Many things.
Cool.
I give tours out there. I'm closely working with the Noah Purifoy Foundation, and they call me over when I can do it. Of course, I have a full-time teaching job too, so my schedule's a little tight sometimes. But when I can do it, I'll go over there and give tours to groups of people that are interested in his work. And I always approach it not necessarily as it is history, but it's a personal history. I approach it as the stories I can tell of him and me actually, working together or being friends or talking together. We actually talked more, I think, after I stopped working for him because he wasn't real verbal in how he was approaching his work. He worked very intuitively. So I talk about those things too, but I don't usually talk too much about the written history that's already there available, but I talk about a more personal point of view.
Well, I think one of the things, I went with a friend and we walked around for quite a while and took a lot of photos. And I said to her, I remember saying to her, can you imagine living here and just walking out your door every day and looking at all of the material you have to choose from and trying to decide where to even start? I don't even know it seems almost overwhelming.
Yeah, I don't think Noah ever felt that way. Maybe he had moments, but he didn't appear to. He always seemed to be, he was up in the morning, he was working out there as soon as he could get out there. He did break in the summer times, in the summers, when the heat came about in the afternoon. He would
I don't know what you're talking
about. Breaks, but then he would be back out there in the evening when it would cool down. He was very dedicated and very sort of obsessive, let's say. So. And people brought him stuff constantly, and he went out looking for it too. So
right, sure.
He never had a shortage of materials.
Material, right? There's everything out there, from clothing to toilets to old metal, just everything to choose from.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
And he never seemed overwhelmed, or he always sort of seemed to be working steady and with a purpose. He did.
So for you, coming to the desert, it was more about your vocation. Yep. Whereas a lot of the people that I talk to, it's almost kind of a spiritual, I don't know, something told me to come here, I just felt something here. Would you say over the time that you've been here that you've had any experience like that?
I guess similar. I hate to talk spiritual so much. I don't, I'm not a religious person, and I stay away from dogma. But the idea of space, fresh air, serenity, I guess those kind of touch on a spiritual sensibility.
Right. When I hear those words, I almost think of being in a meditative state and just so relaxed and just so tuned in, maybe to then all of those creative ideas.
I suppose. Physically, I needed the space. I wanted to come here because, as I said, I was not the kind of artist that would be happy in a little tight little apartment. I needed something, and I love nature. I grew up in a rural area, so my fond memories as a child was out playing in the dirt and in the woods and that kind of, in the fields and stuff. So that's definitely a sense of freedom and creativity. And the desert offered that from living in cities. Cities were very fun when I was a younger person in my 20s and 30s, but I think I got to a point where I was starting to feel suffocated by that tightness, being on the freeways and fighting for space and being stuck and standing in line constantly. I I can't even imagine that now.
No, I know.
Really scary.
Someone posted a photo today. I guess they were on vacation and they must have flown into LAX, and the photo was just of the traffic. I don't know whether it was probably the 10, and said, "It's going to be a few hours, but I'll be in the desert soon."
Yeah.
But yeah, and when I hear people here talk about it's so busy on 62, there's so much traffic on 29 Palms Highway, I just go,
well, okay,
comparatively,
compared to 20 years ago.
Right, exactly. So tell me about that. I mean, when you came out here 24 years ago, what and who was here besides Noah Purifoy?
Not very many people, not very many artists. I think this place has attracted artists for a long time. I take that back in a sense because I remember some of my instructors from Otis and Claremont having second homes out here, mostly in Pioneer Town, up in that area. So, and there is a history of artists here. I think one of the early miners, settlers, one of the wives was taking gold remnants and putting them in her paintings. She was mixing it with oil paint so that the painting shimmered like the desert. So that's a part of a history that's always been happening, just not as popular as in recent years.
Right.
I think this is the pioneer, the pioneer spirit, in which I think a lot of artists, not all of them, but a lot of artists are that way. So it would make sense that people would be drawn to this place.
Sure. So over that amount of time, have you seen, it seems to me, just having been here myself just a little over a year this month, actually, I feel like there's more people coming.
Yes.
And how have you experienced that in all the time that you've been here? Does it seem to happen in waves? Have you seen other times when it's been more than this or similar? And when?
I think the great surge, I'll talk about the surge that came when Andrea Zattel started her high desert test sites.
Okay.
There's a lot of media articles over that in New York and LA. That brought probably the largest wave that I can recall.
And that was what? Is that?
That was in
10 years maybe?
I want to say that was around 2000.
Oh,
the year
okay,
2000,
so
I
almost
think.
20, yeah.
Yeah, I could be off a little bit. 2001, 2002, somewhere in there. And, I have to admit, I have mixed feelings about that. I mean, certainly, I love it here. Of course, other people are going to love it up here. It's not my place.
Right.
And I know things have to change. Things cannot stay the same.
Right.
I just know that. I mean, that's actually what a lot of my work is about, is change and decay and life and death and those things. So I embrace that. But there's the fear of losing the specialness, the essence. There's the fear of just this area becoming just like every other area. The word gentrification, of course, always comes up.
Exactly.
So I don't know what I can do to stop that. I keep moving east. I'm now living out in Wonder Valley area.
Okay. Where did you start when you first came? You were here in Joshua Tree?
Yes.
Okay, right.
And it started feeling too crowded.
Wow. Yeah.
So I went that way.
And it is beautiful out there. And I have to say, it's expansive here, but out there, it's really expansive because it's just so wide and long and empty. And
it's flatter.
It's really,
There's a
flatter.
big bowl out there.
Exactly. Yeah. It's really, really beautiful. I think I've talked in the past at another interview about, I look forward to our mutual friend Teresa's she always does a Good Morning Wonder Valley or Good Evening Wonder Valley photo. And it's always just so beautiful and so open. There's no trees, no nothing. It's just the earth and the sky. And it's just really amazing.
Yeah. And that's important to me. That's important.
Is a sense of isolation important to you?
Yes. I'm typically a loner anyway. I'm married and my husband's kind of a loner. And we get along well.
Right.
Because we understand that about each other. But I don't need to be in the mix of it. In fact, I don't necessarily like that. I like a sense of community. I'm not a hermit. I need a social element in my life, but I have to stay on my own terms.
Right.
I don't want to be confronted with it constantly.
No. So. And I think there are a lot of people here who feel the same way. I notice that there's not so much house parties or barbecues. Usually people are going out and meeting at a place and then they go back to their home. Exactly.
cave.
It's their sanctuary,
Yes.
if you will.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Did you meet your husband here? Or
I did.
You did? How did that happen?
Well, there used to be an art gallery. It used to be an insurance place with an art gallery in the back. It's right up next to Lear. I think there's an artist living there now. I can't think of his name right now, but they had a little Monday night meeting thing called Arty Culture.
Arty Culture.
Arty Culture,
like
yeah.
that.
And it was kind of a group of artists just coming. It's show and tell or just discuss things. Writers and visual artists were coming there. And he showed up at one point. He was new to the area. And he had gone to Otis Art Institute.
Oh.
At a different time, but that was our starting of our conversation.
Right.
I went to school there, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. We've been married now for 14 years.
Okay. And he's also an artist?
He's also an artist. He's a painter.
Okay. I was going to ask what his medium was.
Yeah.
Nice.
Does abstract, and he's definitely influenced by the desert landscape, although that's not what his paintings look like. They're not realistic desert landscapes, but they're full of light and space and texture in an abstract sense. But you can tell that they're related to the environment. So
it's so inspiring for many art forms, I think. Mm-hmm. We have so many musicians and different media artists. I feel like my creative energy is changing just coming from downtown, living in LA. And it's a similar.
Well, it's got to. I mean, it's got to.
Right, yeah.
It's like our work is it's a reflex.
Right.
Of what we're experiencing, whether obvious or not.
Yeah.
So.
No, I'm really enjoying being here.
Good.
When you coming from Los Angeles, what were some of the challenges for you? Were there anything that you came up against that you thought, oh, wow, wait a minute, I'm not sure this is for me?
I had moments. I guess I also felt like LA was close enough. Probably for the first few years, I was still running down there. Still had very many friends down there, and still maybe thinking about getting into galleries, that kind of thing, and did show down there a few times. So there was still that connection. But the longer I stayed out here, the less important that was. Now when I moved here, there were 2 galleries per se. There were other places that displayed artwork, but they were gift shops or stores and had other things going on in the space. There was the Sun Gallery in Joshua Tree, and then there was the 29 Palms Art Gallery Guild in 29. Pretty much, that was it. And one was considered the conservative gallery, which was the 29 Palms Art Gallery, because they really were very limited, mostly in desert landscape paintings, realistic approach. And then there was the Sun Gallery, which took everything else. This is really funny, but it was considered the radical gallery, right? Woohoo.
I love that. Well, I think there's just that general connotation for a very long time, and even now with Joshua Tree radical.
Yeah.
There's still that,
I mean, I heard about that gallery through Noah, because he had a couple of pieces in there. So he sent me over there. And I was doing performance work then, so I did a couple of performances there and put sculpture in. Eventually, Robin Gowdy was managing at the time, and he was trying to turn it into collective. And, I think that was about a year later. So I think at that point, there were other things starting to pop up. Right. In the area. But so the challenge was not many venues to get your work into.
Right. Unless you did make that trip.
Right. So, as an artist, I was happy at that point to kind of stay home and just make the work. So it wasn't a huge challenge. I have to say that one of the biggest challenges was just trying to find a nice restaurant around here.
It's a little bit of a challenge.
Yes, it is.
I say I'm eating a lot better because I'm cooking more at home. I don't have those endless choices, to go out and spend money. So I'm saving money and I'm eating better.
Right.
So,
yes, it's better.
So sometimes I ask people, because most of the people that I've interviewed have not been here for 24 years, although I am interviewing someone this afternoon that's born and raised here.
Oh, wow.
So that'll be a very different conversation.
Well, yeah.
But I usually ask, do you think you found enough here to stay and I
yes.
think that's obvious that you have. And you found a way to not only make your art and sell it, but you're also teaching art at the college. How long have you been doing that?
That probably was instrumental in helping me stay up here, is getting the job there. I had some part-time jobs. I was working at the Weefels and Son Mortuary for a while, part-time, which was interesting. But I was hired over at the college in 94, just as I think I had one class. That's all I started out with. Then I think the next semester I had two. But because the cost of living was so inexpensive up here, it gave me enough money to survive, along with some other part-time jobs, and still have enough time to be an artist. So that was ideal.
Right. I'm finding that myself. It's a great, I'm spending time doing this podcast, and I think, what would I be doing if I wasn't doing this? Because it lends itself to just a much more relaxed way of living. Let's say.
Yeah. So I think, and so the teaching, Copper Mountain College used to be with College of the Desert down in Palm Desert. They separated as an independent college in 2001. So at that point, I had been teaching on and off here. I could then go down. I couldn't teach at both places because they were the same college.
Okay.
You can only teach so many units. So that freed me up to actually go down and get a job there. So I was commuting, teaching there. I was also started teaching some classes on the base for National University and Chapman University. So those classes helped me make a living. And again, kind of flying around part-time, but still gave me a lot of time for being an artist. My time was not consumed by a full-time position. Now, that changed 6 years ago. I did get a full-time position over at Copper Mountain College. Be careful what you wish for.
Right.
Although, I spent years as a part-time instructor saying, if I ran this department, I'd be doing blah, 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 blah. Well, I've actually been able to do some of those things as a full-time faculty member. So it's good. I know the community really well. And by the time I got the full-time position, felt that I did know the community. So I think I've been able to contribute some really good things over there at the college. So I like the job. I like That's teaching it. If I have to go to another meeting, I don't know if I'm going to enjoy that.
Yeah, that's usually, I think that usually ruins most jobs. I mean, not that I had a great job, an exciting job at the bank, but I can tell you that meeting, I was like, I'm done with this. When am I actually going to be able to do some work?
Yes,
because it's just too much.
But I do like the job, and I feel that I can contribute something very positive over there. I've seen the department change. I've seen the type of student change. I think Copper Mountain College is a small college and struggles a bit with numbers, enrollments. But it's a great little college.
They offer a wide variety of different things, too. Yeah, I've been up to the campus just to kind of look around and see what's up there.
And even though it does, being a full-time instructor does interfere now with that free time as an artist, I still get some nice time off over the summer, and it's something I'll do. I'm close to retirement, so I'm gonna suck it up and do it and enjoy it.
Exactly. Great. Well, I have a little jar of questions here from my 17-year-old niece.
Okay.
So I would like to have you pick a question and see what that is, and provide her with some answers.
Okay. The question is there a good way to keep strong relationships with friends from high school carried into adulthood? Well, I'm still friends with some of my friends from high school. I graduated from high school in 1974, so it's been a few years back, right?
Right.
And we've lost touch. I think we've gone through a few years of losing touch, and then we've regained. And we've communicated through social media, call each other every once in a while.
That Facebook has just opened a lot of things up to be in touch with people, not only from like where you grew up in high school, but I've moved numerous times, and in every place I've moved, I've left friends, and it's a great way to still keep in touch.
Yes, it is.
Really, as aggravating as it can be.
Yes.
Sometimes.
Yes.
Use the proper way.
I have to admit that I think some of those friends were more assertive in keeping touch because, as I mentioned, I'm kind of a loner.
Right.
I'm terrible at remembering birthdays and that kind of stuff. I admit it. So I have to say that I have to give them a lot of credit for keeping in touch more than myself because I think I'm probably too selfish.
Well, and, sometimes to get the work done, that's what it takes. You have to focus on what you want to do with your life. And sometimes that's what happens. Those kind of things may fall by the wayside, and so that you can do those things that mean something to you, to leave your legacy, if you will. That's important.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a balance.
Yeah, it is. And I think it's easier for some people to be more social. It's not that easy for me.
Right.
So I have to work at it. And I enjoy it. I'm not saying it's a terrible thing or it's a chore, but it's like I can, I was like that as a kid. I could spend hours and hours just over in the corner playing with, whatever. So I think my natural tendency is to kind of be a loner, but I'm glad. I'm grateful that there are other people that are more assertive and
kind of draw you
calling
out
me
every
up
once
and
in
say,
a while.
"What have you been doing?
Where
Get out
are
of your
you?
corner.
Come and see us. We miss you."
So I don't know if that really answers the question, but that's all I can.
There you go. That's different for every person. Is there anything you're reading right now, listening to right now, watching right now that you're excited about and want to share?
I just finished a Margaret Atwood series. It was a trilogy, sci-fi, kind of a real smart sci-fi about communities. I'm doing this weird project right now on the property in front of us that we just recently purchased. I'm playing with dolls in a sense.
I saw, I don't know if this is part of it. Did you have a troll? Was that the NERP?
Well,
is that different?
That's sort of what segued into what I'm doing now. Of course, I pick up junk in the desert, and I always come across little toys, little creatures. Well, I just throw them in a box. But recently I got this idea of making a whole community of these creatures and giving them different names and giving them identities and personalities and making a community for the small. So now I'm calling it Facebook art. I mean, even though there is an actual physical community happening out there. But I'm posting this whole story on Facebook about these personalities.
Oh, cool.
So I was speaking of the book, I was referred to that book through someone who's part of the group on Sundale Village, which is the name of the community.
Okay.
And it's about community relationships and existence in a post-apocalyptic society, which I'm very interested in. So it's called The Year of the Flood.
Year of the Flood, Margaret Atwood. I'll put that in the show notes if people are interested in that.
And of course, Margaret Atwood she's kind of popular right now because of The Handmaid's Tale. I think we were finished watching that by summer. I was watching it at the end of the semester.
Okay. But, she's got, I guess, a surge of popularity with that. So that's good.
Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate you coming and talking with me today.
Sure. Thank you.
You are welcome.
It's been fun.
Thanks. That was fun. Thanks so much for listening to the Desert Lady Diaries podcast. There are so many ways to spend your time, so thanks for spending it here with me and Cathy. I hope you got some insight and inspiration, and if you did, I hope you'll share that with me and the other listeners on the Desert Lady Diaries Facebook page. I hope you'll tune in next time when my guest, lifelong desert resident Bianca Stoker, shares what it was like growing up in the desert, the urge to leave, and why she stayed, and how knitting can be good for you. If you're enjoying this podcast and you haven't subscribed yet, I hope you will on iTunes, Stitcher, or SoundCloud. Thanks.